So we're to our last storyteller, who's Ghezae Kadanya. And Ghezae grew up in the new sovereign nation of Eritrea after its long war for independence from Ethiopia. But things have not worked out so well in terms of democracy or the high hopes for freedom that and prosperity that many Eritreans had. Many of us know about refugees from Sudan and from Somalia, but there's also a massive exodus, particularly among young people, from Eritrea. Ghezae came here in 2008 with a master's degree in marine biology, I'll tell you more about, but had to develop new skills to make a living here. So over the years, he began at De Anza College and then Texas Tech after work, and ended up with a degree in clinical lab science. And now he works for Sutter Health and for Kaiser, analyzing lab specimens and doing microbiology. And I don't know if Hannah's way in the back, that's his wife, and you'll hear about her in the story. She works at a dry cleaners, and the two of them are raising, I don't know if he wants to wave, but Emmanuel, 2 years old, and 9-month-old Ariam in Dublin.
So you may want to call me a draft dodger. However, when you hear my story, I think you will agree that I had a good reason to escape. I am from Eritrea, and I left my country in 2006 to attend a graduate program in Belgium. So we Eritreans are leaving the country in a very, very significant number, and we are actually running away from the very oppressive national service. The national service is obligatory, so there is no way that you can avoid it. So, and as a result of that, you will find many Eritrean refugees around the world. And to give you a bit of history, Eritrea is the second newest country in Africa. It just got its independence in 1991. And this happened after a 30-year war for independence with Ethiopia. So we were under the Italians, then the British, and then finally under Ethiopia. So Eritreans fought for their independence from 1961 to 1991. In this perspective, you will imagine that a country as new as that should learn a lot from the history of all African nations and be the best that it could be in Africa. However, things didn't go that way. Instead, well, we were very happy. We were very happy, and we Eritreans were very happy, and we were excited with the sorry. So yeah, we were very happy, and we are very excited even with the declaration of the obligatory or mandatory national service, and it was part of the constitution. However, the current president, who decided to be a president for life, has put the constitution on shelf, as well as all the trappings or checks and balances that are needed for establishing a democratic nation. There is no room for democracy, there is no room for election, there is no room for any sort of human right or individual rights. So once you are into the national service, you cannot be outside of that. And the national service is very arbitrary. It can go up to 10 years. Imagine, I graduated high school in 1998, so people who went into the national service since there are still there. And they cannot pay anything. There is no way that you can pay. So serving your nation is a good thing. However, serving a nation where the leadership is dictatorship is a kind of a curse. So luckily, I was accepted into the only university in the country, so which means my national service has to start after my graduation. And I graduated from the University of Asmara in marine biology and fisheries in 2002. Then I was assigned to the Ministry of Tourism to do my national service. However, even though this was meant for 1 year, it went up to the third year. And by the end of the third year, there was no end on sight. So, and as I say, the country starts to go from bad to worse. The leader was a very popular guy. He was well-known. He was very liked. But as of now, he is one of the well-known dictators in Africa, even in the world. And our country, which was gained after the losing of many lives, is now being tamed as the North Korea of Africa, which is really very sad, because part of my family, which is my dad, including yeah, 4 of his siblings has to participate in the war, and 4 of my uncles has passed away. It's only my dad who made it alive. But anyway, sorry. So it was really very difficult for me to serve the nation, at the same time serve a dictatorial regime. We are wasting our lives. There is no way that we can build or kind of plan our future, earn a real salary for that matter. So I started to develop a plan. I said I should leave the country, either to Sudan or Ethiopia. And both countries has refugee centers just for Eritreans. So it was not also acceptable for me to leave the country without any plan at hand. So I decided, maybe if I make it luckily, if I become very successful, I should try applying for a scholarship first and see if I can get one. So I applied to a full scholarship from Belgium. It's called the Vler Scholarship. It is given for international students from all over the world, from the developing countries. So I was lucky that I was awarded a full scholarship. I have not to pay anything. So to make a long story short, I decided to leave. And at that time, my wife now was my girlfriend. She also became Omber, and she is willing that she doesn't want to be part of the national service. She said there is no future for her in there. And then we decided to leave. So for some technical matters, I have to stay a little bit behind. So my wife left 10 days ahead of me. So she went to Sudan, and then the same with me. I have to travel from the capital to a border town near Sudan. It took me about 8 hours by bus, and it's very tough at this time. You have many checkpoints at every direction, and if you are suspected of escaping, you could be, taken into prison and be in the national service for unlimited period of time. I went to the border town, and then the plan was to wait for a trafficker, because I knew a friend in the town who knows a trafficker, and with the trafficker, that should be when? April 6, 2006. I have to wake up early in the morning, sit on a bench at 8 a.m., start drinking a cup of tea, have a newspaper, and wait for my trafficker. So time goes by, and it was very difficult. As I start to wait for a long period, I start to panic. All the negative scenarios start to come into mind. What if someone, not that I'm new to this area and have been here for a long time, if they reported me to the authorities, what would happen? What if my trafficker didn't show up? And so, however, luckily, the trafficker was watching me from afar to make sure that it is really me. So I have to wait. When the sign was, I have to wear my necklace with a cross, and then I was always, holding that one so that he can have a sense that it is me. Then he made sure, he gave me a sign, and then he motioned me. I followed him. We went into his car, and then 90 minutes later, we are in Sudan. So I was in Sudan, in the refugee camp for Eritreans. It's very close to the border. So being outside of Eritrea is one thing, but being a refugee is also another thing. Because as a refugee, actually, you lose almost everything. You feel like you are nobody. You feel like you have no future at all. So I really start to panic. Okay, And the other reason is the refugee camp is very close to the border with Eritrea, so the Eritrean security forces can simply go and take anyone who they think are very important for them. And you know, the border between Eritrea and Sudan is like nobody's land, except the Eritreans, the Sudans, they really don't have any security agents around there. So it was very risky. So I have to provide my case to the UN officials over there, and they accepted my case. Once my case was approved, it took me about a week to get my refugee card. At the same time, I'm not sure that, yes, I got a scholarship, but how would this work out? Because I'm not in Eritrea. That was my reported residence address. This was my reported country to the scholarship providers. Now I'm in a new country. Will that work out? So it was very difficult. And being in that refugee camp, you start to stress out because you see people from Eritrea who doesn't have any plan at hand, have to make the other decision, a very difficult decision, which means they have to cross the Sahara Desert. It's very unbelievable. I mean, in this age and century, it is very difficult. However, they do it. They have to pay about $2,000 to $3,000, and then from there, from Libya, you have to cross the Mediterranean Sea and end up in Europe. And it's also another very risky war. I lost two of my cousins who tried to go that way. They were on the boat, and the boat they were on sank, and they lost their life. We lost huge number of Eritreans that way, and it's really sad. One of my cousins, his father has, paid his life for the independence of Eritrea, and finally he ended up dying at sea also. After this, I went to Khartoum, which is the capital of Sudan. I was lucky enough to figure things out, and then I got my papers that are needed for my visa, and then at the same time, my wife was my girlfriend at that time. But the scholarship has gave me an opportunity to take my wife. She can join me while I'm in study. And to make that, I have to make sure to get married with her. So it is very difficult. You know, Sudan, they speak Arabic. I don't speak Arabic, either my wife. So, but we were very lucky. We figured it out. We went to the courthouse and we get our marriage license. And then I left Sudan in September 18 of 2006. And then my wife joined me 7 months later in April of 2007. I finished my master's degree in Belgium, and then we applied for a tourist visa to the United States, which it worked out very well. They give us 1 year multi-entry visa for both of us. Then we came here in September of 2008, which was best decision, best thing that happened to us. However, it was a very bad time at that time. I think you all remember that there was this economic meltdown happening. So it was very difficult for us to get a job. And it was very sad that nobody wants to hire a marine biologist. So we already got our papers in a very fast way. It took us only a month to get our asylum approved. So we got our work permit, we got our social security, but then finding a job was becoming a very tough decision. During that time, we were living in San Jose. I had one of my former professors who also did the same thing, has left the country. And we were sharing with him and his wife an apartment. And I got a job through Manpower just as an operator at Hitachi, a microchip assembling. And then after working there for a year and a half, I got another job as a startup, in a startup company here in Mountain View. It's called Lens Vector, and worked there for about 2 years. I have to make a good decision that I shouldn't be a marine biologist no more. I have to study a new profession, and that profession ended up to be a clinical lab scientist. So I went to Texas Tech. I got my degree in 2015, worked in Reno for a year, and come back to the state of California. Now I work as a clinical lab scientist, as Elliot has mentioned it, for both Sutter Health and Kaiser Permanente in Oakland. And for the rest of my family, still both my parents are in Eritrea. I still have 2 of my siblings stuck in the Eritrean National Service. And 2 of my brothers are in Europe, another sister in Switzerland. I have a sister in Texas, in Dallas, and one of my, the eldest sibling, or my eldest brother, is still in Ghana. Well, so we are very lucky. We are now citizens of the United States, and we are very hopeful that the future will be bright for us and our kids. And again, thank you so much for paying your attention.